In the middle of the Caribbean Sea, a family is enjoying their vacation on a yacht. The mother, Julia, jumps into the water for a swim. While relaxing, she suddenly feels something strange around her, but since she can't see anything nearby, she assumes it's just her imagination. A few seconds later, she feels the same strange sensation again. This time too, nothing is visible, but now she starts to panic and begins swimming back toward the yacht. Suddenly, something grabs her leg and pulls her down. Julia screams for help, but her daughter Cassie doesn't hear her because she's listening to music on her headphones. Meanwhile, her husband Tom and son Ben are busy fishing. Julia struggles to stay above the water, but she swallows water and can barely shout. After a while, Tom realizes that he hasn't seen Julia for some time. He looks around the yacht and spots her struggling in the water. Tom quickly calls the kids, steers the yacht closer, and jumps into the sea. He reaches Julia, holds her, and swims back to the yacht. The children help pull both of them up. The family comforts Julia, but she tries to calm herself, thinking it was probably just a strong wave. That night, the family celebrates Ben's birthday together. Later, Cassie gets a video call from her boyfriend. She takes her laptop outside to talk. On the call, her boyfriend shows her that huge dark clouds are covering the city sky. Suddenly, the call glitches and freezes. Cassie goes inside to tell her family about it, but Tom says it's probably because they're too far from land and the signal is weak. Just then, everyone hears a strange sound. They all go outside and see a group of whales passing by. Tom explains that whales usually follow the Earth's magnetic field, but when a storm approaches, they get confused. Suddenly, the yacht shakes violently and Ben falls to the floor. Worried that something might have damaged the yacht, Tom decides to dive underwater to check. After a few minutes, he comes back to the surface, but there's a deep wound on his shoulder. Julia quickly cleans and stitches it. Tom tells them he felt like something huge was behind him underwater, but when he turned around, he got cut by the propeller. Still, he insists that whatever it was enormous. Tom notices serious damage to the yacht, so they decide to call for help. Julia keeps trying the radio, while Cassie searches for a phone signal, but nothing works. Suddenly, Cassie screams after seeing a strange shadow in the water, but it turns out to be Ben, wearing a mask and trying to scare her. Moments later, the yacht completely shuts down and gets stuck in the middle of the ocean. Julia finally hears a faint voice through the radio, but it's so distorted that she can't understand anything. Tom tells the family they only have enough food and water for 4 days and must wait for a passing fishing boat. Suddenly, something appears on the radar and an eerie sound fills the air. Everyone rushes outside and watches in shock as several fireballs fall from the sky. Wherever they land, huge explosions light up the horizon. One fireball crashes into the sea nearby, and Tom quickly tries to restart the yacht. The engine sputters to life, but before they can move, another fireball hits close to them. Terrified, the family holds on to each other tightly. Then Tom realizes those fireballs aren't meteors, they're falling satellites. Just then, Ben notices smoke rising from the yacht. Tom checks and confirms the engine is badly damaged. The wind begins to roar, and the family hides inside the cabin, unaware that the yacht's compass is spinning wildly. Within moments, the yacht starts shaking violently. Ben falls again, this time hurting himself. Huge waves crash violently against the yacht. Tom struggles to go outside and grabs the life jackets for everyone. Suddenly, the power goes out. Tom quickly presses the main power switch, and the lights flicker back on. At that moment, Ben notices blood dripping from Julia's nose. She starts to feel dizzy, while Cassie rushes to the sink and throws up. Tom keeps trying to use the radio, but there's still no signal. Suddenly, a loud, high-pitched noise echoes through the air, and the wind grows even stronger. Julia tries to shut the doors, but one of the hatches bursts open, and the windows begin to crack under pressure. Tom lights a flare to see through the chaos. Moments later, everything goes dark. The next morning, the family wakes up in shock they've somehow survived the storm, but half of the yacht is destroyed. When they step outside, they're stunned to see that the entire ocean has disappeared. The yacht is now stuck on dry land. Cassie checks her phone, but there's no signal at all. Ben starts playing with 2 dead crabs he finds nearby. Tom checks the compass and realizes it's completely reversed something that last happened 700,000 years ago. Cassie breaks down, believing her boyfriend must be dead. When Julia tries to comfort her, Cassie pushes her away and runs off to hide. Julia and Tom go through the remaining supplies, while Ben ties his birthday balloons to a rock, hoping another survivor might see them. Tom tries the radio again, and this time a voice responds. It's a man named Now, the captain of a submarine which, like their yacht, is also stranded on land. Now confirms their worst fear. The Earth's magnetic poles have reversed, causing the oceans to pull back and large parts of the land to sink. He says he hasn't found any other survivors yet, and all communication systems are down. Now warns them that the poles will likely flip again soon, and when they do, the ocean will return with unimaginable force. Climb as high as you can, he tells them. When the water comes back, it'll destroy everything in its path. He also reveals that his partner died in the crash, and there's room for only 3 people in his submarine. Julia and Tom beg Captain Now to please save their children. He agrees and gives them his coordinates. Tom calculates the distance and realizes it will take them 2 to 3 days to reach the submarine. He tells his family, "Get some good rest tonight. We'll leave first thing in the morning." The next morning, the family is packing their things when Tom notices something moving nearby. It's a limping man holding a harpoon with a barking dog by his side. Tom cautiously walks up to him and offers him a bottle of water. The man speaks in a strange language Tom can't understand. After drinking the water, the stranger suddenly smashes the bottle on Tom's head and kicks him hard in the face. Julia screams and runs toward the yacht, but it's too late. The man thrusts the harpoon straight into Tom's stomach. Tom gasps in pain, falls to the ground, and the man brutally slits his throat. Julia, terrified and bleeding, runs back to the yacht. The man throws his harpoon again, hitting her shoulder. She winces in pain but manages to get inside, yelling at the kids to hide. She locks the door behind her. Cassie and Ben crawl under the sofa while Julia hands them a flare gun and grabs a knife herself. Then she hides in the bathroom, trembling but ready to fight. The man starts banging on the door violently until it finally breaks open. He walks in, snatches some food, and begins searching the yacht. Then he heads toward the bathroom, but Julia cleverly escapes through a small vent and slips outside. Thinking she's gone, the man starts looking elsewhere. But just as Julia quietly tries to sneak back toward the yacht, his dog spots her and starts barking. The dog attacks, and Julia defends herself, stabbing it with the knife. The animal's cry alerts the man, who rushes out and goes furious when he sees his dead dog. Meanwhile, Julia climbs up to the other side of the yacht, trying to get back in through a broken window. But before she can, the man reaches her. He grabs her and punches her hard, sending her crashing down. Julia grabs a piece of furniture to pull herself up, but he kicks her away. He steps on her wrist, forcing her to drop the knife, then grabs her by the hair and slams her face against the floor. Finally, he throws her onto the sofa and starts choking her with both hands as Julia struggles desperately to breathe. The children watch everything in horror. Suddenly, Cassie grabs the flare gun and fires. The burning flare hits the man straight in the chest. He bursts into flames, and fire quickly spreads across the yacht. The kids run out as fast as they can. Julia, weak but determined, gets up, kicks the man to the ground, grabs the map in their backpack, and escapes. Cassie and Ben run to their father's body, crying uncontrollably. Julia kneels beside them, and the three of them say a final goodbye to Tom through their tears. But then the terrifying man staggers out of the burning yacht, still alive. The family panics and starts running again. Moments later, the yacht explodes behind them in a massive blast. After walking for a while, they stop near a small waterfall to rest. Cassie thinks that maybe the crazy man found them because of Ben's birthday balloons. Hearing that, Ben blames himself and begins to cry. Julia comforts him, saying, "It's not your fault," and tells them they have to keep moving because that man might still be chasing them. As they continue, Ben spots a dead hammerhead shark near a small pond. He stares at it in shock. Julia looks around and suddenly notices the man is close again, following them. They start running and tumble down a sand dune, landing near a pit filled with toxic waste. Carefully, they cross through it and finally seem to lose him. As they keep walking, they see huge dead sea creatures lying everywhere: whales, crabs, jellyfish, all mixed with mountains of plastic that once floated in the ocean. The sight is heartbreaking. Ben starts walking slower and slower. Julia realizes he's severely dehydrated. She stops and reaches for their water bottle, but when she looks inside, her face falls. It's almost empty. Cassie suddenly remembers she might not have closed the bottle tightly last night. Julia snaps in anger, shouting, "Because of your carelessness, our water is gone!" Cassie yells back, "What does it matter? We're not going to survive anyway." The two argue fiercely as Ben quietly watches, weak and scared. Despite the tension, the family keeps moving, tired, hopeless, and unsure how much further they can go. After walking for hours, the family finds the wreckage of a crashed plane. They freeze when they see something moving inside, but it's only a few birds. Relieved, they decide to spend the night inside the plane. They share a few snacks they have left. Julia finds a family photo tucked inside Tom's old jacket. Her eyes fill with tears as she holds it close. Cassie quietly asks, "Mom, how did you and Dad fall in love?" Julia smiles softly and says, "Tom was my patient in the hospital. One day he brought me flowers and a beautiful little poem. That's how it all began." Later that night, Cassie steps outside for some air. Suddenly, the terrifying man grabs her from behind, but before he can harm her, Julia attacks him from behind, stabbing him again and again in a rage until he finally collapses, dead. Cassie, trembling, hugs her mother tightly as Julia breaks down. The next morning, flies buzz around the man's corpse. The family notices strange bite marks all over his body, meaning something dangerous is lurking nearby. As they start to leave, crabs crawl out of the dead man's mouth, making everyone sick with fear. Hours later, Julia and Cassie are checking the map when Ben wanders off ahead. Julia shouts, "Ben, stop!" But before she can reach him, he kneels beside a small pond and drinks the water. Julia rushes over, pulling him back, warning him that it could make him very sick. The heat becomes unbearable, so they cover their heads with pieces of cloth. Ben starts to feel dizzy. Soon they find a few broken chairs and use them to build a temporary temporary shelter. Julia gives Ben an injection to help him recover and decides they'll rest there for the night. At dawn, Julia wakes up to a strange sound. When she steps outside, her eyes widen. A massive swarm of crabs is crawling straight toward them. She screams for the kids to wake up, and all three start running for their lives. After a desperate chase, they spot a large cargo ship stranded nearby. Julia waves for help, and three surviving crew members appear. One woman tries to help them, but the other two men refuse. They shut the container doors, leaving the family outside. The crabs close in fast. Julia lifts Cassie and Ben onto the top of the container and tries to climb herself, but the crabs latch onto her leg, biting deep. She screams in pain as the kids pull her up just in time. Through a hole in the container, hundreds of crabs pour inside. The crew starts shooting, but the creatures overpower them, tearing the men apart. The last survivor climbs toward the roof hatch, only to be dragged back down screaming. Julia quickly bandages her wound, but she's weak and soon collapses. When she finally regains consciousness, she finds herself alone, surrounded by a violent sandstorm. Panicked and dizzy, she screams for her children, but there's no answer. Julia picks up a weapon from a dead woman and starts shouting loudly. Cassie hears her mother's voice and runs back. She tells Julia that she and Ben went to look for help, but found no one. Soon they meet Ben, who has found an open container where they can stay until the storm passes. Julia takes out Tom's lighter and burns her wound to close it. The pain is unbearable. After the storm ends, they find another container filled with water bottles. While checking the dead bodies, they also find a radio and a gun. Julia contacts the ship through the radio and tells them that their map is lost. The man on the ship says they were attacked by arthropods creatures that have gone mad because of too much oxygen. He warns them to hurry because his instruments show that the sea will return sooner than expected. They only have a few hours left. He fires a flare and the family starts walking in that direction. After a long walk, they find a broken toilet where Ben stops to pee. Finally, they see the submarine nearby, but to reach it, they must cross a rocky path. As they move through it, the walls begin to shake and rocks start falling, causing a dangerous rock slide. Julia quickly pushes her children to the side and jumps back to avoid being crushed. A huge rock wall falls between them, separating Julia from her kids. She tells them to keep moving without her, but Cassie refuses and insists that her mom must try to climb over. After shouting and arguing, Julia promises that she will find them later. Cassie, with no other choice, pulls her brother and leads him forward. The kids climb over the rocky path and run toward the submarine, but when they reach it, they find the sailor lying outside, covered in blood. He tells them that it's over for him, and now the kids should take the submarine and escape. Thinking there might be one more seat, Cassie runs back to find her mother. Meanwhile, Julia sees a swarm of crabs coming toward her. She grabs a gun and starts firing, killing a few of them, but there are too many. Just then, Cassie appears on top of the rock wall and reaches out her hand. Despite her injured leg, Julia climbs up as fast as she can. With Cassie's help, she makes it over, and together they run toward the submarine. Ben is already standing near the hatch, firing to distract the crabs while his family climbs up. As soon as the crabs reach the sailor's body, they begin devouring it. Julia keeps shooting until the kids are safely inside. When her bullets run out, she throws the gun at the crabs and jumps inside with her children. They lock the hatch tightly and watch through the window as the crabs surround the submarine. Just then, the ocean water rushes back in. The family quickly takes their seats, straps on their belts, and holds hands tightly. The powerful waves toss the submarine violently, flashing memories of their entire journey through Julia's mind. Cassie starts vomiting as the sound of that high-pitched noise returns, and soon they all lose consciousness. After some time, Julia and the kids wake up. Realizing they are still alive, they hug each other with relief. They unlock the hatch and step outside, only to find that the submarine has landed in a ruined city. But it's above water now, a sign of hope and a new beginning. And that's where the movie ends. Thanks for watching.